Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Linda Canton. I work here at Inside the Box Board Games. I'm normally the operations manager, but for this project, I got to also be the editor, which is pretty awesome. I'm here joined today by the ever so fabulous H.L. Truslove. Thank you very much for clarifying how to pronounce your name, because sometimes other people pronounce it differently and it confuses me a lot.
I've got all sorts. I got HL Trust Boat once. I was like,
Oh,
that's not even anything like the last part of that, but okay.
new name option for the boat in Alba? Who knows?
Oh,
Perfect.
that's the one you have to write in biro by yourself, though. So
Perfect. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, but somehow managed to come here, Harley over here is the one who wrote Alba, which is pretty fantastic. Do you want to start us off here in the Q&A by just saying, what is Alba? Give us a little bit of information about that.
yeah, so Alba is a open world adventure book which is set in post-apocalyptic Scotland. The main character, which is you, leaves the comfort of their home to come and explore the sort of ruins of the land that has been wrecked by the war, and it's about the adventure that you go on and the places that you explore while you're out there.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Cool. Sorry, this is our first time using this particular platform, so if the transitions seem a little bit weird, sorry in advance, people.
It's because we're weird, that's why.
I mean, that definitely doesn't hurt, but you know. Yeah, so kind of what we're going to be going through today is a bunch of audience questions that we've gotten in through either our social medias, the Kickstarter page, which is doing absolutely fantastically. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, do it. It's great. We're almost at 150K, which means that we're going to unlock yet another stretch goal, the best way to end a week. So yeah, we've gotten a bunch of questions through the social media, through Kickstarter, as well as just a couple of team questions that we thought would be kind of interesting. So yeah, Harley, you ready to start?
Of course.
Perfect.
Sorry, don't mind my hat. It's very cold in this flat.
It's a very nice hat, to be fair.
It is my partner's, thank you.
Nice. Cool. So the first question is, what influences did you call upon when you were writing Alba?
Yeah, that's a good question. I drew from quite a lot of different things. You know, I feel like sort of the survival genre has been quite prevalent in the most recent, you know, the last decade of books, for example. You know, you think Hunger Games, stuff like that. It is sort of the person versus the world. I used a lot of second person writing to look at. Especially, I say this a lot, and it is still something that sticks with me. I remember my first ever choose your own adventure book was a Goosebumps one. It was Toy Terror, batteries not included, and I remember going through it with all my little fingers in the pages, like bookmarking whenever I was dying, and like, okay, I gotta go back to that choice. Okay, I gotta go back to that choice. So I feel like that is the sort of thing that really influenced Alba, because a lot of choose your own adventure, open path adventure books are very much, and then you die, and you're like, oh, good, back I go. So it was really about avoiding that with Alba, because we wanted to keep the options as open as possible. We didn't want it to just come to a dead end and you feel cheated halfway through the book, and you feel, well, back I go. So yeah, I would say a lot of open world adventure, but a lot of choose your own adventure books have influenced Alba, for better or for worse.
Yeah, just going to quickly latch on to the, you mentioned that, you know, you didn't really enjoy just having your journey sort of cut off and then having to go back. One thing that I really like about Alba that really stuck out to me when I was going through it to edit it is that there's really no points where you make a decision and it's like, okay, cool, I need to go back. There's literally one instance that I can think of, but it made it fun because it only happens the one time. Like, it's not like, okay, cool, constantly I have to go back. It's like, oh, that was actually a meaningful choice that I just made, and it's really like fulfilling, I found, to read.
And it's not that choice, I don't think, is something you can't recover from. No spoilers, you've got to wait for the book. But
I'm really excited for people to read it. It's so good.
Yeah, I know. So I think the most important thing was feeling like you could have a complete playthrough and not just, you know, be sort of stiffed by it. That's a bit rude, sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, cool. So next question, when writing a particularly emotional or difficult scene, how did you kind of get in the mood?
Yeah, I really this sort of links to something that people were asking on Twitter about what music I listen to.
Mhm.
And so when there was sort of, I listened to a lot of the Studio Ghibli soundtracks because they're very chill. So when it was like the chiller places, I was like, hey, I'll just listen to something that's kind of, yeah. But when it was like getting into the more like action scenes, I would listen to the Skyrim soundtrack. Because it's really, firstly, I really like the Skyrim soundtrack. Sue me, I like Skyrim. Thoughts and all. I like climbing vertically up a mountain on my horse.
Don't we all?
It really, game music is designed to make you want to go forward with the action because it wants you to play the game. So it is really good for getting into the mood of like, oh, there's an adventure about to happen, sort of thing. Apart from that, it was very strange because especially when you're writing one scene, I would go through it chronologically, so the emotions could really jump around. So it's really about trying to make sure you stay in that headspace and keep on top and rereading past sections. But yeah, it was difficult sometimes. Yeah.
There's a bunch of, I'd say, like, there's definitely ways of going through it and having a generally like good time throughout Alba.
Yeah.
There's also definitely ways of going through it and having a not so good time.
You're gonna
going
have
through
a bad
Alba.
time.
Yeah. Other people around you also have a bad time sometimes.
Yeah.
It's fine, I guess.
Yeah.
Would you say that writing those, like, were there any particular instances that you can think of where you were like, I need to either definitely be listening to something so that I can write this, or was there anything that you were like, I need to not be listening to anything right now, I need to just like 100% focus on this?
Yeah, the thing is, when I get into the zone, eventually you do sort of tune out anything that's around you, and that can include music. So I'll be like, oh, I've been sitting here for silence in an hour, just like click, click, clack, 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 and then just be like, oh, I didn't even realise because I've been so deep in the moment. And I feel like that also happened with a lot of the action scenes as well, because you get so swept up in trying to describe everything and make it as sort of, you know, as visual as possible. That yeah, I feel like that's when that happened most.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Next question. Laura's gonna.
Yeah.
Oh. Sure. Okay. We're skipping around a bit. It's all good. So what themes are explored during your many journeys in Alba? So if you could kind of give a brief outline of sort of like the kinds of journeys you could have.
Yeah. So it does vary, especially because at the beginning you pick, you know, the specialities you're going to do, and that can sort of inform the stats that you have that go up and down. So I think mainly it is a sort of story about, you know, people reclaiming the world after it's fallen apart. So in ways it is sort of, you know, a warning story about the future. But I think it's also sort of a tribute to human determination and the idea of, well, there's been an apocalypse, but we can deal with that. It's fine. We will find ways to keep going. And there are definitely points where, as the reader, you can go for sort of like the oh, I'm just here to explore and take everything in, and then you can be, well, I can sort of be kinder and helping people and actively trying to, you know, improve their life out here because I came from a place that was better. And then you can just be like, no, I'm going to hurt people, because people like to have that option.
Yeah.
So there's a different ways that you explain the main theme. So this I've humans rebuilding after bad things have happened.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a really good, definitely that's kind of what I took out of it when I was going through it. So I'm really glad that I didn't completely misinterpret it, and also that means that kind of what you were imagining when you were writing it ended up coming through.
Yeah, I didn't want it to be so sad, like, oh, everything's miserable. It's like, things aren't great, but people always find a way to keep going. And that's what's great about humans.
Yeah, I think that really also comes out in Marco's artwork. So for those of you who don't know, who are
Yes,
new to
so
the project,
lovely.
Marco is the one who is responsible for all of the absolutely fantastic, gorgeous artwork that we have in Alba, and it is genuinely like the best stuff that I've ever seen. So it's a bunch
It's
of
so good. I can say
so
that because I
nice.
did draw it.
Yeah. Oh man, it's fantastic. And I think it comes across both in your writing as well as in the illustrations that he's done for the book. It's just absolutely
Oh
stunning.
no, it's fine. The illustrations make it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really incredible. I was just going through all of them like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when we were going through basically, so what happened in terms of our process, Harley wrote absolutely everything at like breakneck speed. And then we were like, oh, okay then. And then I was brought on to edit it. And as I was editing it, we got Marco to do the illustration. So it was kind of like I'd read a chapter and then suddenly there's an illustration for it. And I'd be like, oh my God, this looks amazing. And then I read the next chapter and then there'd be an illustration for that. I'd be like, oh my God, this looks even better.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
just constantly the whole way through. And I remember like I kept on sending them to you, Harley, and you just being like,
Yeah.
these are so good though.
I'm
so good.
excited about the art cards that are going to come with the Kickstarter. I really want to put. You can see we have quite a lot of our stuff up here on our wardrobes. Those will be making an appearance at some point. So I'll be getting those art cards now. Going up there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. In terms of sorry, Lawrence, I'm just gonna
pick one, Lawrence.
Go over you. No, that was on me. I decided to
sorry,
take
Lawrence.
Control of the stream. Lawrence Lawrence is the one who's kind of the puppeteer in the background. He understands how the tech stuff works. I don't, so that's why we keep him around. It's great. So yeah, what is the most valuable piece of advice you've been given in terms of writing?
Yeah, I would say it's sort of very much the keep going. There were some parts that were harder to write, sometimes just simply because of their length. Because when I would plan it out, I would have, this is how many points there's going to be in this chapter, and this is how many points there's going to be in that. So for some of them, for the life of me, I can't remember what the longest one is. I think there's like 28 sections in one chapter, maybe. It is daunting looking at it.
Yeah.
But really, it's just the advice of just keep going. Get it out there, and then you can come back and edit it, because there's a reason a first draft is a first draft. It doesn't have to be perfect, but so long as you've got something down, you can feel like, well, I've made an impact. I've done what I can today. I'll go back and make it better later. So yeah, I really think anyone who's writing anything, if just keep going, keep going. You're making the world more wonderful by putting something else out into it. So keep going, keep writing. I believe in you.
Yeah. Yeah. So next question would be, how did you ensure that the main character is as open to interpretation as possible?
Yeah. So as someone who's read a reasonable amount of second person fiction, especially when it comes to choose your own adventure books, I think there's nothing that's more off-putting for a reader when it says, oh, and then you look down at your pale skin and you go, well, that sort of alienated everybody who doesn't have pale skin from this character, hasn't they? Or when it's like someone calls you, hey, lad, and you're like, well, I wasn't a bloke until now, but I suppose I am, because you've just pushed that on me. So as little as possible, we tried not to describe the main character at all, apart from the fact, like, you have hands and legs. There are very few pronouns used if I got the chance. I believe there is a couple of occasions where the main character is referred to as they, when it was unavoidable to use pronouns, but I really wanted it to be like any person of any gender or any race or any age. Well, I'm not any age. Maybe you should be reading this if you're too young, because there's a bit of violence. But any person should be able to read it and imagine themselves in the book. Or whoever else they want. Doesn't have to be you going on the adventure. You could come up, like we had the D10 generator that Casey put up the other week with the different. You can imagine that person. It was so much fun. Go and check it out. Casey made a adventurer generator, and some of it was so funny, and people coming up with the best ideas for it.
Yeah.
But yes, you should be able to read it and imagine whoever you want in the main character, whether that's you or someone else.
Yeah.
I think we did a pretty good job with it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of the internal editing process was I read through it. The man who's in charge of Inside the Box board games, Peter, also read through it, and various different sections were read by pretty much everyone on the team. And I remember afterwards, all of us being like, "Oh yeah, I had a really great time. Like I really saw myself in the main character." But like we're various different ages, different like gender identities and stuff like that. Like it's just the fact that absolutely everyone could be like, yeah, that was me. I was playing as me. Or like, if they didn't want to be playing as them, they could play as someone else. It was really, really good.
Yeah. Thanks.
Good job. So next question probably kind of ties in with that a little bit nicely. What was the most challenging aspect of writing Alba?
I think it was just the length. It was an enormous thing, because it was have the chapter breakdown. What chapters do we want to have in it? Okay, we have these 29 chapters without the endings. Okay, what will the points be? So I wrote out Word documents with the bullet points of this leads to this and this leads to this, and it's like, right, now time to write it. And there's nothing more daunting than when you have just a blank page in front of you and sort of 5 pages of plan that you need to get through. Like, okay, this is going to take ages. But once again, that is something that's reasonably, surmountable when you get into the flow of writing. I think when you're in the mood, it really does go by like that. But I think, to be fair, I think that's the same for anybody with any project. The most daunting part is the beginning, when you have nothing and you've got to start. But if you get over that first hurdle, then you're in the clear. You've done the hardest part.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. So next question, I guess, would be, what would your Alba playstyle be?
I am one of those people who cannot be mean in video games. So if there's an option to be mean, I'll be like, no, I can't do it. Or I'll do it and then I'll feel really bad and I'll be like, I've got to reload. I feel really bad about that choice. So I would probably be really nice, which isn't always the best thing to do in Alba, but I would probably live with the consequences. So I would probably take medicine as one of the specialties, and I don't know about the other one, but I would just try and be as nice as possible. Sorry, that's a bit of a cop-out. I wish I was more of a angsty person. Or
you're just like, I'm too nice. I couldn't possibly do anything bad.
I would say my biggest flaw is that I'm too nice.
I care too much.
I get so much guilt when I'm nasty to fictional people, because I get too much guilt when I'm nasty to real people. So I just try and be as nice as possible. I'm a wimp. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Next question is from Twitter user. I am going to butcher the pronunciation on this. I am so sorry. Shazio7? Something like that. Sorry. How do you maintain the effort needed to see a project like this from idea to completed product? Bravo.
Thank you. I feel like it is sort of a cumulative thing, because the more you go, the more you see you already have behind you. So at some point you go, oh wow, I've got 5 chapters done. I've got 10 chapters done, and it sort of just bolsters you to keep writing, because you think, wow, I really am getting through this. This is going to be something that is going to be a product, And I think what really helped was, after I finished writing it, seeing all of the stuff that you guys were doing with the artwork and the editing and putting the Kickstarter together. It became really exciting, because I didn't have a hand in any of that. That's you admin guys. I'm just the writer. So it really kept me excited for this project that I was such a big part of. And really, I think just the whole thing was amazing. So that definitely helped.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Another Twitter user question. Ingy Beans, I don't know. I can't pronounce words. I'm sorry, guys. Did you listen to any specific music or playlists while you were writing this? Congrats on an amazing project.
Thanks. Yes. So as I said, I listen to a lot of game soundtracks, like Skyrim, Witcher. One called Slime Rancher. I really love the Slime Rancher soundtrack. It's very chill. Animal Crossing, stuff like that. Really different playlists to suit the sort of mood that I was in. But yes, I really think that having the right playlist in the background can help with what you're writing. Just give you the sort of energy, like, yeah, we're going for it. You know, like Assassin's Creed Black Flag I had because of all of that sort of piratey music when there was sort of fighter scenes going down. It's like, yeah, let's do it. And then like Animal Crossing for the more chill scenes. Yes, I do like Animal Crossing. Probably
We all do.
We all do.
Thank you again for the blue roses. Yeah. So another Twitter user, RL Stead, asks, when planning out separate paths, were they planned out in full around the different options, or was it all done one option at a time?
Yes, so it was sort of one option at a time, because I did go through them chronologically. So it would start at 3.1, and then it would be like leads to 3.2, 3.3, 3.4. I'll go 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, but 3.2 might be, leads to 3.6, 3.8, and then the others might be leads 3.7, 3.10, but I would go through it chronologically and then go back and look at, okay, this has led from this, how to make sure that it leads on properly, because I did try and do it writing one path at a time, but I found it just sort of got confusing. And sort of ended up being a little bit disjointed from the rest of the chapter. So it was way easier. Strangely, it was way easier for me to write chronologically, even though obviously you don't necessarily read chronologically. But yeah, that's how I did it from the writing standpoint.
Yeah, and I guess that would have also been just because of the way you laid it out with having each section just like a short sentence description.
Yes.
It would have made it a lot easier to do that. That way you're kind of like in the zone.
Yeah. And it's nice to just delete bits that you've done and be like, right, that's done. That can go.
That leaves forever. Yeah. Cool. A question from Marie Closter. What made you choose Scotland as the story setting?
Hi, Marie. Yeah, I think it's because a lot of post-apocalyptic stories tend to be set in America. Because a lot of the creators of them tend to be American, so write what you know. And I think that Scotland is it's such a beautiful place, and so, just aesthetically a gorgeous country, but not really explored when it comes to these kind of stories. In America, you may be a post-apocalyptic story happening in a big city or something like that, like New York, destroyed New York. Whereas this was more like, well, it's more of a rural story, less about the urban side of it. What might that look like? And that sort of thing. And also, we just like Scotland.
Yeah.
Go Scotland.
Don't we? It's really nice. We got to have Highland cows in it, which is really awesome.
Yes, we did. I'm not saying we wrote it in Scotland specifically for the Highland cows. But
we didn't not set it specifically in Scotland so we could have Highland cows, Yeah. Cool. We're getting a bunch of questions in on the in the comments. So if you guys have any extra comments or extra questions, put them in the comments. We're going to start going through those now. So Josh Allen, right before we started, actually. Hello, Josh. I'm assuming
I did see that. Hello, Josh.
Thanks for showing up. So I think you've probably kind of answered this question, but just in case, they asked, hey, HL, what thought process did you go through to think of how people of quite different backgrounds and personalities might make choices as they go through Alba to make sure that the choices would fit each person and their character as they go through this journey?
Yes, so there's four. I feel like it comes down to the fact that there are four main stats. Can I talk about the stats? Is that spoilers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So there's four main stats in Alba that will really influence your finish, the ending you end up with, which are instability, compassion, cruelty, and resolve. So I feel like those kind of will help influence the things that people will be going to, depending on, you know, everyone's going to have a different play style. So I would like to think that we've given them enough options that you feel like you have enough of a pick, and there will always be something that will call to you as a reader. And I think another way we did that is that there's always we wrote it with so many open choices because we didn't want people to feel like they were being railroaded or put into a dead end. So even, you know, there may be, you get to the end of a chapter, there may be 3 options. One of them will require a specialty that you would have picked up from the beginning of the book, like medicine or hand-to-hand combat. But there will always be at least 2 others that don't. So you never feel like you're being railroaded into, oh, well, I didn't pick medicine, so now I have to take the crap option, you know? So I would like to hope that sort of helps with giving a wide berth of choices, and people can pick whatever they feel is best for them or not best for them.
Yeah.
I hope that answers the question.
Yep. Okay, so a question from Casey, who is our comms manager. Hey, Casey. Haven't seen you in a while. So her question is, how did you manage writing so many plot lines? Question mark, exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation mark.
No, it's just about keeping them all in your head, really. I think I was lucky because there is a main plot line in Alba that isn't just about the exploration. Once again, I don't want to get too into that because I don't know if there's spoilers. But the plot lines, the smaller plot lines tend to be focused within chapters and then returning to places. So you may meet a character, and then, you know, if you go back to where that character was, if you have the option, you'll continue your storyline with them because they're there. So I feel like the main storyline is sort of weaved throughout all of the story, but the little ones were a lot easier because they were confined to a few chapters. So it wasn't quite as hard as maybe you're worried it was. The main thing was making sure that everything made sense with the chapters before it, and being like, hey, if you've met this person, go to this thing, sort of thing. So
yeah, I do also think the way that open world adventure books work in general really helped with that, because it is you're kind of like, you're there in this world. In this particular instance, you're trying to do something specific. Won't spoil it just in case anyone hasn't read the preview first chapters. But if you haven't, you definitely should.
Yes.
Yeah.
Read the previews
so,
if you want to. You don't have to.
Yeah, they're available on the Kickstarter page. They should also be available on our social medias. Just pop a comment in here and we can link it to you. But yeah, so if you haven't read that, you don't necessarily know what's going on. But basically, like, once the main like narrative starts, you can really just do anything. So I think it's really strong, because you could just be like, cool, I'm gonna like go off to the seaside, and then that's like one chapter, but that functions independently enough of everything else that it doesn't necessarily matter kind of when you experience that, just that you've experienced it. And if you had experienced it prior to entering certain other situations, then that might help you or hinder you. But yeah, it's very just, I think the way that you set up the book was really quite clever in that respect.
Thank you.
Good job. Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah. Simi59 asks, can your character fail or even die?
Okay, well, dying is a kind of failure, isn't it? No, you can't die. Can your character fail? I think is going to depend on what you deem as failure, because there are, how many endings are there?
So I think there's 7 different ending chapters, and within those there's, I think, 16 or like between 14 and 20, like potential ending points.
Yeah. So there's 7 endings. Yes. I wrote it, and I need to ask questions about it. It's so big, and it was
what I'm here for.
It was a while ago. It's I think, you know, there are some endings that are maybe worse than others, but I wouldn't necessarily say any of them were failures. unless you feel that they're a failure. It's very hard to talk about this and not give away any spoilers.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that you at any point fail.
Mhm.
May not all of the beats that you as a reader want to. I think that's a neutral enough way to describe it.
Yeah, I think especially the way that the endings are set up, there's kind of like there is an ending that you only get to if you run out of chapters.
Yeah.
So in a way, you could consider getting
but
to that.
Even that has
ending.
loads of endings in it. Like that.
Well, that's the thing. Like that has my personal favorite ending in the entire book is the one that you can't get to without accidentally not getting to, like, you know, accidentally running out of potential chapters. Like, and it is my favorite one. It's the one that I would personally most like to get. And I also know how to get it. I'm not going to tell you which ones.
But no, you can't tell me on the stream.
You know what my favorite artwork is? You know what my favorite artwork is? It's the one that's related to that. All I'll say.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah. It's good. Anyways, sorry. No spoilers. But yeah, so basically, like, I think the way that they're set up in terms of like the character traits that you can acquire throughout it, it makes sense if you're working and you get a lot of cruelty points, you have the option to then choose the cruel ending, which means that you're probably going to be happy with that. You won't see that as a failure. If I was playing and I saw that, I'd be really sad, but that's because I don't want to like do spoilers.
That's because we're both wusses.
It's fine. I stand by that. It's great. Cool. So we're getting in a few more questions. Okay, so where did they go? There we go. Jonathan. Nice. Shh. Who's emceeing this? Me.
Okay.
Okay, so Jonathan asked, what inspired you or motivated you to write Alba?
The money. No, I think that second person is such an overlooked medium when it comes to writing, and I like writing it. And it was really nice to have an opportunity to write such a meaty project with something that I feel is my niche. Also, I feel like I was somewhat inspired because I'm non-binary. I'm a trans person. The idea of having a main character that isn't held down by any sort of binary because of the way we describe them. It's really nice to write a character that sort of, it is not just about, you know, their gender or whatever. It's about, you know, the way they're interacting with the world around them because of the situation they're in. So I think that was a big inspiration. And I just really like writing, so that's great.
Yeah. Next question. Cool. So Callum has asked, were you inspired by Life is Strange or other choose-your-own-adventure video games?
Yeah, I think those had a big plot, especially when, you know, you make a decision in Life is Strange and you go, oh no, I don't want to do that. Let me rewind and choose something else. I do have a friend who actually we spend the weekend together and we will just play multiple choice adventure games, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
So I do really like video games with lots of different choices because I feel like, you know, it's nice to feel like you are having an impact on the narrative, and it's not just like, you know, you're being that it's a story that's being told, but it is the author's story, you know. It's your story. Even things like Night in the Woods is one of my favorite games in the whole wide world. Listen to the soundtrack of that a lot as well. And I went in cosplay as the main character a couple of years ago to Comic-Con. That's neither here nor there. That's just some trivia about what a nerd I am. But there's even in that there are small choices you can do that don't massively change the narrative of the game, but it does make you feel like, oh, I've had an influence over this. I've made a choice, and now the world has changed slightly. And I think that's just a really nice way to be able to engage with a piece of media. So, yes, is the answer. Yeah, we have a question from Erin, who I believe is the friend that you were telling me about earlier. Yes, hi, Erin.
Hi, Erin.
We were talking
I've heard
about
of
you earlier.
All good things.
Not going to tell you why.
Cool. So they say, biggest fan, Harley, thinking about Scotland. Did you find it hard to write about being in a different country?
Oh God. Okay. So, when we first started writing it, Alba was originally set in Glasgow, so we'd written a lot of stuff about how, vague references to Glasgow without being too specific, and then we were sort of doing the because I did write some chapters first and then come back and write earlier ones. So I was writing about we're on a boat and we land, and then I was like, Glasgow is not on the coast, so if you land this boat, you immediately have to just walk miles and miles that we do not discuss to get to the city. So we all went, right, okay, what Scottish cities are on the coast? Aberdeen. So we had to change the whole book to be set in Aberdeen.
Yeah.
Because we were fools about geography. So it wasn't hard writing about it being in a different country. But all of us were geographically challenged to start off with.
Yeah.
So that's an embarrassing story about our book.
Yeah, I remember because I think you changed it to Aberdeen without necessarily telling Peter. So at one point I was like, oh yeah, it's in like Aberdeen. Peter's like, what are you talking about? It's in Glasgow. And I was like, that's really not how Glasgow works though. Like
I did. I'm sure I did tell Pete, but whether Pete actually paid attention to that or not, not calling anybody out here, Peter, but no, it fundamentally it had to change for it to work because it just wasn't happening. But then that ended up being fun because I ended up Googling a load of stuff about Aberdeen and sort of the local areas and what landmarks may be referenced, but not too obviously. So yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah. So yeah, next question from Will. Do you have a favorite ending?
I do, without going into too much detail. I think it's probably the same as Linda, where it's one of the endings where you can't get to it unless you've exhausted all of your choices. But there are options within that ending, which is called the lost ending, to go and find people who you've previously met in the story. Once again, try not to be into too much detail, but you can go back and find. No, it's not that one. Sorry, Linda's messaging me on Slack.
You're wrong. It's fine.
It's not that one. It's
a different one. It's fine.
I'll message you.
Yeah.
But yes, it's one of those. It's one of the meeting up because it's the idea of you can find a home in this sort of place that you're exploring. Okay, I've sent it to you. In this place that you're exploring, and because home isn't a place necessarily, home can be people. So home is what you make of it. I see Linda with her eyes.
I agree. That's also a good option. Cool. So next question is from David
We're just
Ross.
whispering behind your back. Sorry.
Sorry, everyone. We're just having a little cheeky conversation about the endings. Read the book, and then we'll do another one of these, and we'll all talk about our favorite endings, and it's going to be great. Okay. So next question is from David Ross. Can exploring side quests make you more prepared or leveled up for main plots and interactions?
I would say that definitely having side quests does help you improve your stats, and those stats will come in handy. I would say yes, but it depends what you classify as a side quest over the sort of main quest, because everything you do will have an impact eventually on the ending you get. So I wouldn't necessarily call any of them side quests, just other bits of the narrative, But if I were you, I would encourage you to explore as much of Alba as possible and make as many choices as you can and really influence your stats and explore everything, and then see what happens. I would also be interested to see what is the shortest possible route through the book.
We actually already know that.
Run. Oh, do we? Nobody told me.
It's Peter.
Okay.
Of course we know the shortest route. We'll talk about it later. It's fine.
We'll talk about that later. It's fine.
Yeah. We're going to need to do another one of these after everything's fulfilled, where we can talk about actually what happens in the book and all that stuff. It's going to be great. Yeah.
The spoiler version rather than spoiler-free version.
Cool. Okay. Next question is from Ian. Is there any plot element or story arc that you wanted to include, but that you did not fit into the overall narrative of the project? It's a really good question.
Yeah, that is a really good question. I'm not sure if this would be the book for it, but I would maybe like to include more of a romance at some point. Maybe just there are a couple of instances in the book where it's suggested there may be the possibility for romance with a certain characters, but it's never really expanded on. But I also think that if I was going to do something like that, I would want there to be, multiple romance options for, people of different genders for you to be able to look into doing that with and, having that as a side quest. I think that would probably be the big one because I'm a romantic sap at heart. To be honest, I think we hit all the points that we really wanted to explore with Alba. I mean, Linda, is there anything that you felt you would have liked to see?
Not really. I think that's one of the especially good things about the special edition. So we initially had the kind of 29 chapters plus 7 ending chapters. And then before we launched the Kickstarter, we were like, okay, we definitely want to have like a hardback special edition. We want it to have a bit more content that's kind of like additional side quests that can maybe help you out with the like kind of main plot line, but mostly is just sort of there for fun. And I think you added in 2 really good chapters. I don't think we're talking about what they are, but we can if you want. I think that kind of...
it depends if anyone from above is going to be like, no, turn off the stream, they're talking about the secrets.
Yeah, no, it should be fine. I think because we like when we were talking about kind of what chapters we'd want to add at that point, I think I gave you a list of like 7 or 8 things that I was like, it could be cool to explore this. And then you ended up combining like 4 of them into the like visiting a seaside farm. And that was awesome. So I think was a lot of fun.
I would have liked a farmy farm one, but I felt it was too similar to one of the other chapters that we had. So I wanted to avoid that. But then like the idea of, you meet a load of fisher people and you sort of join in with what they've got going on for a little while seemed like a nice compromise. So that is my favourite chapter, actually. So everyone should get the special edition so they can read it.
Yeah. Also, cooler map. It's great. Cool. So Rachel, I believe I also recognize your name.
Yes. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Rachel. Can you take a small animal companion on your adventure with you?
I really wish you could. Well, I was discussing with Pete because in the original artwork, I think it is this picture actually that we have behind us, there was a dog in it, like with you. And I tried to have a chapter with a dog, but it would have ended with the dog having to leave or dying horribly because it would just be too much faff to write a whole book where you may or may not have an animal with you. Like at that point, Alba would have been double the length it was. So unfortunately, no. But I really, really, maybe, in another life, in another book, we would have an animal companion that would be a main part of the story. Although I really wish you could just pick up a frog and bring it with you. That would be great.
Oh my God, the frogs though. The poor frog.
And Alba, the frog in Alba has become like a running theme. And that's because I love frogs. That's just a personal choice. But yeah, no, not in this universe, unfortunately.
So you are actively encouraged to read with your pets. So
yes, please do.
Kind of counts.
Let your pets make the choices for you.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
It's their adventure now.
The cat swats at an option and you're like, okay, cool, guess I'm going there.
Alba stands for Animals Love Books, am I right?
I'm surprised by how quickly you caught that. Like you made that?
So am I.
I'm very impressed.
Usually I just trail off with those, but today we're on it. Thanks.
So I think probably the last question we're going to ask is actually from Casey. I don't believe that we've put it on a banner. but it is what are you reading and watching at the moment?
At the moment, I am reading the Parable of the. I just finished Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler, and now I'm reading Parable of the Teller. Yes, which is another sort of post-apocalyptic story, which is a little bit hard going but quite good. I'm also reading Trans Buckaroo Tales by Chuck Tingle, who I love and is my favourite author and will not mind me showing this book. Because I like, as a trans person, I like reading stories about trans people, which aren't just, I'm so miserable because I'm trans.
Yeah.
What I'm watching at the moment, me and my partner have been watching NCIS, so a lot of police procedurals, and what else? I watch a lot of really bad competition shows, so I'm watching the glass blowing competition show on Netflix at the moment. I really wish I watched more interesting things, but I don't. I'm sorry, I'm really boring. I wish I could say, like, yes, I was watching these really interesting foreign films, and it's like, no, I just like watching people compete and doing things.
Yeah. Do you think that we're ever going to have a glass-blowing storyline in a future open-world adventure book?
If we were before, we will now.
Hey! Okay, well, way to crush my dreams.
All right,
cool.
Fine, I'll write it down then, shall I?
Please do.
Rachel got me this pen, thank you. Glass blowing. There we go. Now I can never forget. Cool.
Excellent. Cool. So that's actually a typo on there. We've hit 150K. So
yes, we have hit 100K.
Amazing.
We did.
We did that a little while ago, but yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, for liking, commenting, all that stuff. 150,000 pounds is an absolutely amazing point to hit, especially when we still have like 6 days left in the campaign.
Yeah, I'm really humbled by all the support that we've got. It's been really incredible to see people so excited for it, so excited for something that we're also really excited for. So thanks everyone for your support. It's been really wonderful.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think that's it for now. So Harley, unless you have anything else you'd like to say?
No, come along. I would say read the sample chapters we have to get in the mood for it, and stay tuned. Watch this space for more things.
Yeah, awesome, cool. In that case, thank you very much for joining us, and Harley, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, yeah. And we'll be seeing you later.
Yes. Yeah. See you later, guys.